My name is Sarah Martinez. And this is the story of how I went from being the daughter who was told education is wasted on girls to becoming the cardiac surgeon who literally saved my parents' lives. I was born into a traditional Mexican-American family in San Antonio, Texas, where my father owned a small grocery store and my mother raised 4 children. In our household, there were clear expectations. Boys would get educated, build careers, and support their families. Girls would learn enough to be good wives and mothers, then dedicate their lives to their husband's success and their children's well-being. I was the youngest and the only girl, which made me both cherished and constrained. My 3 older brothers Miguel, Carlos, and David were encouraged to excel in school, participate in extracurriculars, and dream big about their futures. They talked constantly about college plans, career aspiration, and the impact they wanted to make in the world. I wanted to join those conversations, but every time I expressed academic ambitions, I was gently redirected. Sarah, Mija, my mother would say, using the Spanish endearment, it's beautiful that you love learning, but don't forget that a woman's greatest achievement is raising successful children. Education beyond high school is wasted on girls because they'll just leave everything behind when they marry. My father was more direct. Why should I spend money on a daughter's college when that money should be saved for her wedding and her brother's education? A man needs a degree to provide for his family. A woman needs to know how to manage a household. These weren't cruel people. They loved me deeply and wanted what they believed was best for me. But their vision of best felt like a cage that was getting smaller every year. The irony was that I was the most academically gifted of all 4 children. While my brothers struggled to maintain B and C averages, I effortlessly earned straight A's. While they needed tutoring in math and science, I was tutoring other students. My biology teacher, Mrs. Patterson, constantly told me I had a mind for medicine. But I learned not to share those conversations at home. The conflict reached a breaking point during my junior year of high school. I had just scored a perfect 36 on the ACTA score that earned congratulations from my counselor and excited calls from college recruiters. That night at dinner, I couldn't contain my excitement. "Papa, I got a perfect score on my college entrance exam," I announced proudly. "Mrs. Patterson says with grades like mine and this test score, I could get into any medical school in the country." The table went quiet. My brothers looked uncomfortable. My mother's smile was strained. My father set down his fork and looked at me with a mixture of pride and exasperation. "Sarah, we've talked about this," he said firmly. "You're a smart girl, gracias a Dios. But intelligence in a woman is meant to make her a better wife and mother, not to compete with men in careers. Medical school, that's 8 years of education, plus residency. You'd be 30 years old before you could even think about marriage and children." "But Papa, what if I want to help people? What if I want to save lives?" "You can help people by raising good children who will help people," my mother interjected. "The most important job a woman can have is mother. Why would you waste your gifts on something that will interfere with your most important role?" That night, I lay in bed staring at my perfect ACT score and feeling like it was meaningless. My brother's scores had been celebrated with dinners out and promises of college support. My perfect score was treated like a problem to be managed. But Mrs. Patterson wasn't giving up on me. The next week, she pulled me aside after class. "Sarah, I've been teaching for 25 years and I've never had a student with your natural aptitude for science. I've arranged for you to shadow Dr. Sarah Mitchell at San Antonio General Hospital. She's one of the best cardiologists in the state, and she's expecting you Saturday morning, Mrs. Patterson." "I can't, my parents would never." "What they don't know won't hurt them. Tell them you're studying at the library. This is one morning that could change your entire life." That Saturday morning changed everything. Dr. Mitchell was a brilliant, confident woman who had graduated from my high school 20 years earlier. She spent 4 hours showing me around the cardiac unit, explaining procedures, and letting me observe as she examined patients. "Medicine is hard," she told me as we sat in her office afterward. "It requires sacrifice, dedication, and the ability to make life and death decisions under pressure. But if you have the calling, if you have the mind for it, and if you have the heart for it, there's no more rewarding career in the world." But my parents think education is wasted on girls. They want me to get married and have children. Dr. Mitchell smiled. "Sarah, I have 3 children and a husband who adores me. I've delivered thousands of babies and saved countless lives. Who says you can't do both? The question isn't whether you can balance medicine and family, it's whether you can live with yourself if you don't try. That conversation planted a seed that grew into unshakable determination. I started researching pre-med programs, scholarship opportunities, and financial aid options. I learned that with my grades and test scores, I could qualify for full scholarships. That would make my education cost my parents nothing. But when I presented this information to my father, he was unmoved. Sarah, this isn't about money. This is about what's appropriate for a young woman from a good family. What will people say if my daughter becomes a doctor instead of a wife? They'll think I failed to raise her properly, but Papa, wouldn't you be proud to have a daughter who saves lives? I would be proud to have a daughter who respects her parents' wishes and follows the path God intended for women. The argument escalated over the following months. My parents began restricting my activities, concerned that too much academic freedom was giving me unrealistic ideas. They arranged for me to spend more time with my married cousins, hoping their domestic happiness would redirect my ambitions. My cousin Rosa, who had married at 19 and now had 3 young children, was assigned to mentor me during family gatherings. Sarah, I understand the appeal of career dreams, she told me one afternoon as we watched her children play. But look at what I have: a loving husband, beautiful children, a secure home. What more could any woman want? I want to help people, Rosa. I want to use my mind to solve problems and save lives. She sighed. Mija, you can help people by raising children who will help people. You can use your mind to support your husband's career and manage your household efficiently. Why do you need to complicate your life with the stress and demands of medical school when you already have a clear path to happiness? I couldn't explain to Rosa that her path, while valid and beautiful for her, felt like death to me. The thought of spending my life exclusively focused on domestic concerns, no matter how important, made me feel like I was suffocating. The crisis came during my senior year when I secretly applied to several universities and was accepted to the pre-med program at University of Michigan with a full scholarship. When I told my parents, the response was explosive. Absolutely not, my father said, his voice shaking with anger. I will not have my daughter embarrassing our family by pursuing a man's career. You will decline that scholarship and prepare for marriage like a proper young woman, but Papa, it's a full scholarship. I won't cost you anything. Sarah, this conversation is over. You are forbidden from pursuing this path. That night, my mother came to my room for what I knew would be our final conversation about my future. Mijita, she said, sitting on my bed, I know you think we're being cruel, but we're protecting you. Medical school is brutal, the hours are impossible, the stress will age you before your time. By the time you finish, all the good men will be married, and you'll be alone with nothing but your career to keep you warm. Mama, what if I want my career to keep me warm? What if helping people gives my life meaning? A woman's meaning comes from her family. Everything else is just distraction. I made the hardest decision of my 18-year-old life. I accepted the scholarship to University of Michigan and prepared to leave home, knowing that my parents might never forgive me. The day I left for college, my father refused to speak to me. My mother cried and begged me to reconsider. My brothers were split. Ahmed supported my father, Omar remained neutral, and Khalil secretly wished me luck. You're breaking our hearts, my mother said as I loaded my car. And for what? To play doctor when you could be building a real life. Mama, this is my real life. I hope someday you'll understand. The first year of college was academically challenging but emotionally devastating. My parents maintained minimal contact, sending only brief, cold responses to my calls and letters. They didn't ask about my grades, my progress, or my happiness. Our family gatherings happened without me, but I threw myself into my studies with the passion of someone who had sacrificed everything to be there. I earned straight A's in organic chemistry, physics, and biology. I volunteered at the campus health center and shadowed doctors at the university hospital. Every success felt like validation that I had made the right choice, but also like a reminder of how much I had lost. The isolation from my family was painful, but it also freed me to discover who I could become without their limitations. I joined pre-med societies, conducted research with professors, and built friendships with classmates who shared my passion for medicine. By my junior year, I was thriving academically and personally, but the gulf with my family seemed insurmountable. They had stopped responding to my calls entirely. I learned about family events through my brother Callum, who maintained secret contact despite our parents' disapproval. "They're hurt, Sarah," he told me during one of our clandestine phone calls. "They feel like you chose strangers over family, career over love. David, I chose myself over their limitations. There's a difference, I know, but they can't see it that way yet." Medical school acceptance brought a mixture of triumph and loneliness. I had been accepted to 3 top programs, with full scholarships to 2 of them. I was achieving everything I had dreamed of, but I had no family to celebrate with. I chose Wayne State University School of Medicine because it was close to home, harboring a secret hope that proximity might lead to reconciliation. But 4 years of medical school passed with minimal family contact. They sent no congratulations when I made the dean's list. No acknowledgement when I was selected for prestigious research opportunities. No celebration when I graduated with honors. The day I matched into a cardiac surgery residency at Henry Ford Hospital, one of the most competitive programs in the country, I called my mother to share the news. "Mama, I matched into cardiac surgery. I'm going to be a heart surgeon." There was a long pause. "That's nice, Mijita," she said quietly. "Your cousin Elena just had her second baby. A beautiful boy." The message was clear. My achievements were interesting footnotes, but they weren't the real markers of success in a woman's life. Residency was brutal 80-hour weeks, life and death decisions, constant learning under extreme pressure. But I loved every challenging minute of it. I was exactly where I belonged, doing exactly what I was meant to do. During my 4th year of residency, I was working a night shift in the cardiac ICU, and 2 ambulances arrived simultaneously. The first patient was a 62-year-old man, having a massive heart attack. The second was a 58-year-old woman with acute heart failure. I was the senior resident on duty, responsible for initial assessments and emergency interventions. As I rushed toward the first gurney, I froze. The man having the heart attack was my father. For a moment, time stopped. This was the man who had cut me out of his life because I had chosen medicine over marriage. Now, his life was literally in my hands. "Sir, can you hear me?" I said, falling into professional mode while my heart pounded. "I'm Dr. Martinez, and I'm going to take care of you." My father's eyes widened as he recognized my voice. Even through his pain, I could see shock and confusion. His daughter, the one who had broken his heart by becoming a doctor, was now responsible for saving his life. The next 6 hours were the most challenging of my medical career. My father required emergency surgery to clear multiple blocked arteries. I assisted the attending surgeon, my hands steady despite the emotional turmoil. This was my father's life, but it was also everything I had trained for. The surgery was successful, but my father would need extensive follow-up care and lifestyle changes. As he recovered in the ICU, my mother arrived at the hospital, frantic and terrified. When she saw me in surgical scrubs, her face went through a series of emotions: surprise, confusion, relief, and something that might have been pride. "Sarah, you operated on your father." "I assisted in his surgery, yes. He's going to be fine, Mama, but he needs to make significant changes to prevent this from happening again." She stared at me for a long moment, taking in my confident demeanor, my medical knowledge, my competent management of her husband's crisis. "I don't understand," she said quietly. "You're really a doctor, a heart doctor." "I'm a cardiac surgery resident, Mama. In 6 months, I'll be a fully qualified heart surgeon." That evening, as my father stabilized and my mother kept vigil beside his bed, she pulled me aside for our first real conversation in 7 years. "Sarah, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest. Are you happy, really happy?" I looked at my mother, this woman who had sacrificed so much for her family's well-being, who had genuinely believed she was protecting me from making a terrible mistake. "Yes, Mama. I'm happier than I ever imagined I could be. Every day, I get to help people during the most frightening moments of their lives. I get to use everything I've learned to solve problems that matter. I feel like I'm exactly where God intended me to be." Her eyes filled with tears. "But you're not married, you don't have children." "Aren't you lonely?" "Sometimes," I admitted. "But I'm not empty. My life has purpose and meaning, and I'm open to love when the right person comes along." "But Mama, I could never have been happy if I had abandoned this calling. It would have been like asking you to abandon your children." "It's not who I am." 2 weeks later, as my father prepared to leave the hospital, he asked to speak with me. Privately, Sarah, he said, his voice still weak but his eyes clear, I owe you an apology, not just for saving my life, but for trying to prevent you from becoming the person who could save it. Papa, let me finish, he interrupted. I was wrong. I thought I was protecting you from hardship, but I was actually trying to prevent you from becoming who you were meant to be. You are a brilliant doctor, and I am proud to be your father. The reconciliation with my family wasn't immediate or complete, but it was real. They began to understand that my choice hadn't been a rejection of them, but an embrace of my own calling. They saw that my education hadn't been wasted, it had been transformed into the very thing that saved the man who had opposed it. 6 months later, I graduated from residency and began practicing as an attending cardiac surgeon. My parents attended my graduation ceremony, tears streaming down their faces as I received recognition for clinical excellence. This is our daughter, I heard my father tell another attendee. His voice thick with pride, she's a heart surgeon. She saved my life. Today, I'm the chief of cardiac surgery at Henry Ford Hospital, the youngest woman ever to hold that position. I've performed thousands of surgeries and saved countless lives. I've also found love with a fellow physician who shares my passion for medicine and my commitment to service. But my greatest achievement isn't professional, it's the relationship I rebuilt with my family. They now understand that education is never wasted on anyone with the capacity to learn and the heart to serve. My success opened doors for my young female cousins, who now pursue careers in engineering, law, and medicine with their family's full support. The little girl who was told education is wasted on girls became the woman who proved that education is the most valuable investment a family can make in any child, regardless of gender. My parents were wrong about education being wasted on girls, but they were right about one thing: a woman's greatest achievement is raising successful children. The difference is that success comes in many forms. And sometimes the most successful thing you can do is model courage, determination, and the pursuit of your highest calling. My name is Sarah Martinez. And this is how I learned that the best way to honor your family isn't to meet their expectations, it's to exceed your own potential and use your gifts to serve something greater than yourself. Sometimes the people who love you most are the ones who have the hardest time seeing who you're meant to become. But if you stay true to your calling while keeping your heart open to them, love eventually finds a way to bridge even the widest gaps. If this story inspired you, we'd love to have you join our community. Subscribe to Inspiring Life Stories for more incredible tales of people who proved everyone wrong and achieved the impossible. Every day, we share real stories of underdogs, overlooked heroes, and ordinary people who did extraordinary things. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell because you never know which story might change how you see your own potential. Have your own story of overcoming doubt or proving people wrong? Share it in the comments below. Your experience could inspire someone who needs to hear it right now. Thanks for watching. And remember, your dreams are worth fighting for, even when the people you love most don't understand them.